Costa's audiobook presents The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoyevsky. Chapter 5. A laceration in the drawing room. But in the drawing room, the conversation was already over. Katerina Ivanovna was greatly excited, though she looked resolute. At the moment Alyosha and Madame Hohlakov entered, Ivan Fyodorovitch stood up to take leave. His face was rather pale, and Alyosha looked at him anxiously. For this moment was to solve a doubt, a harassing enigma which had for some time haunted Alyosha. During the preceding month it had been several times suggested to him that his brother Ivan was in love with Katerina Ivanovna, and, what was more, that he meant to carry her off from Dmitri. Until quite lately the idea seemed to Alyosha monstrous, though it worried him extremely. He loved both his brothers, and dreaded such rivalry between them. Meantime, Dmitri had said outright on the previous day that he was glad that Ivan was his rival, and that it was a great assistance to him, Dmitri. In what way did it assist him? To marry Grushenka? But that Alyosha considered the worst thing possible. Besides all this, Alyosha had till the evening before implicitly believed that Katerina Ivanovna had a steadfast and passionate love for Dmitri. But he had only believed it till the evening before. He had fancied, too, that she was incapable of loving a man like Ivan, and that she did love Dmitri, and loved him just as he was, in spite of all the strangeness of such a passion. But during yesterday's scene with Grushenka another idea had struck him. The word lacerating, which Madame Hohlakov had just uttered, almost made him start, because half waking up towards daybreak that night he had cried out, "Laceration, laceration," probably applying it to his dream. He had been dreaming all night of the previous day's scene at Katerina Ivanovna's. Now Alyosha was impressed by Madame Hohlakov's blunt and persistent assertion that Katerina Ivanovna was in love with Ivan, and only deceived herself through some sort of pose from self-laceration, and tortured herself by her pretended love for Dmitri from some fancied duty of gratitude. Yes, he thought, perhaps the whole truth lies in those words. But in that case, what was Ivan's position? Alyosha felt instinctively that a character like Katerina Ivanovna's must dominate, and she could only dominate someone like Dmitri, and never a man like Ivan. For Dmitri might at last submit to her domination to his own happiness, but Ivan, no. Ivan could not submit to her, and such submission would not give him happiness. Alyosha could not help believing that of Ivan. And now all these doubts and reflections flitted through his mind as he entered the drawing room. Another idea, too, forced itself upon him. What if she loved neither of them, neither Ivan nor Dmitri? It must be noted that Alyosha felt as it were ashamed of his own thoughts, and blamed himself when they kept recurring to him during the last month. What do I know about love and women, and how can I decide such questions? He thought reproachfully, after such doubts and surmises. And yet it was impossible not to think about it. He felt instinctively that this rivalry was of immense importance in his brothers' lives, and that a great deal depended upon it. One reptile will devour the other, Ivan had pronounced the day before, speaking in anger of his father and Dmitri. So Ivan looked upon Dmitri as a reptile, and perhaps had long done so. Was it perhaps since he had known Katerina Ivanovna? That phrase had, of course, escaped Ivan unawares yesterday, but that only made it more important. If he felt like that, what chance was there of peace? Were there not, on the contrary, new grounds for hatred and hostility in their family? And with which of them was Alyosha to sympathize? And what was he to wish for each of them? He loved them both, but what could he desire for each in the midst of these conflicting interests? He might go quite astray in this maze, and Alyosha's heart could not endure uncertainty, because his love was always of an active character. He was incapable of passive love. If he loved anyone, he set to work at once to help him. and to do so he must know what he was aiming at. He must know for certain what was best for each, and having ascertained this, it was natural for him to help them both. But instead of a definite aim, he found nothing but uncertainty and perplexity on all sides. It was lacerating, as was said just now. But what could he understand even in this laceration? He did not understand the first word in this perplexing maze. Seeing Alyosha, Katerina Ivanovna said quickly and joyfully to Ivan, who had already got up to go, "A minute! Stay another minute. I want to hear the opinion of this person here whom I trust absolutely. Don't go away," she added, addressing Madame Hodakov. She made Alyosha sit down beside her, and Madame Hodakov sat opposite, by Ivan. "You are all my friends here, all I have in the world, my dear friends," she began warmly, in a voice which quivered with genuine tears of suffering, and Alyosha's heart warmed to her at once. "You, Alexey Fyodorovitch, were witness yesterday of that abominable scene, and saw what I did. You did not see it, Ivan Fyodorovitch. He did. What he thought of me yesterday, I don't know. I only know one thing, that if it were repeated today, this minute, I should express the same feelings again as yesterday. The same feelings, the same words, the same actions. You remember my actions, Alexey Fyodorovitch. You checked me in one of them. I must tell you that I can't get over it. Listen, Alexey Fyodorovitch, I don't even know whether I still love him. I feel pity for him, and that is a poor sign of love. If I loved him, if I still loved him, perhaps I shouldn't be sorry for him now, but should hate him." Her voice quivered, and tears glittered on her eyelashes. Alyosha shuddered inwardly. "That girl is truthful and sincere," he thought, "and she does not love Dmitri any more." That's true, cried Madame Hodakov. "Wait, dear. I haven't told you the chief, the final decision I came to during the night. I feel that perhaps my decision is a terrible one, for me, but I foresee that nothing will induce me to change it. Nothing. It will be so all my life. My dear, kind, ever faithful and generous adviser, the one friend I have in the world, Ivan Fyodorovitch, with his deep insight into the heart, approves and commends my decision. He knows it." "Yes, I approve of it," Ivan assented, in a subdued but firm voice. "But I should like Alyosha, too. I should like Alexey Fyodorovitch, too, to tell me before my two friends whether I am right. I feel instinctively that you, Alyosha, my dear brother," she said again ecstatically, taking his cold hand in her hot one, "I foresee that your decision, your approval, will bring me peace, in spite of all my sufferings, for, after your words, I shall be calm and submit. I feel that." "I don't know what you are asking me," said Alyosha, flushing. "I only know that I love you and at this moment wish for your happiness more than my own, but I know nothing about such affairs." Something impelled him to add hurriedly, "In such affairs, Alexey Fyodorovitch, in such affairs, the chief thing is honor and duty and something higher. I don't know what, but higher perhaps even than duty. I am conscious of this irresistible feeling in my heart, and it compels me irresistibly. But it may all be put into words. I've already decided, even if he marries that creature," she began solemnly, "whom I never, never can forgive, even then I will not abandon him. Henceforth I will never, never abandon him," she cried, breaking into a sort of pale, hysterical ecstasy. "Not that I would run after him continually, get in his way and worry him. Oh, no. I will go away to another town, where you like, but I will watch over him all my life. I will watch over him all my life unceasingly. When he becomes unhappy with that woman, and that is bound to happen quite soon, let him come to me, and he will find a friend, a sister. Only a sister, of course, and so forever. But he will learn at least that that sister is really his sister, who loves him and has sacrificed all her life to him. I will gain my point. I will insist on his knowing me and confiding entirely in me without reserve," she cried, in a sort of frenzy. "I will be a god to whom he can pray, and that, at least, he owes me for his treachery and for what I suffered yesterday through him. And let him see that all my life I will be true to him and the promise I gave him, in spite of his being untrue and betraying me. I will become nothing but a means for his happiness, or, how should I say, an instrument, a machine for his happiness, and that for my whole life, and that he may see that all his life. That's my decision. Ivan Fyodorovitch fully approves me." She was breathless. She had perhaps intended to express her idea with more dignity, art, and naturalness, but her speech was too hurried and crude. It was full of youthful impulsiveness. It betrayed that she was still smarting from yesterday's insult, and that her pride craved satisfaction. She felt this herself. Her face suddenly darkened, and an unpleasant look came into her eyes. Alyosha at once saw it and felt a pang of sympathy. His brother Ivan made it worse by adding, "I've only expressed my own view," he said. "From anyone else, this would have been affected and overstrained. But from you, no. Any other woman would have been wrong. But you're right. I don't know how to explain it. But I see that you are absolutely genuine, and therefore you are right. But that's only for the moment. And what does this moment stand for? Nothing but yesterday's insult. Madame Horodkov obviously had not intended to interfere, but she could not refrain from this very just comment." "Quite so, cried Ivan, with peculiar eagerness, obviously annoyed at being interrupted. In anyone else, this moment would be only due to yesterday's impression and would be only a moment. But with Katerina Ivanovna's character, that moment will last all her life. What for anyone else would be only a promise is for her an everlasting, burdensome, grim perhaps, but unflagging duty. And she will be sustained by the feeling of this duty being fulfilled. Your life, Katerina Ivanovna, will henceforth be spent in painful brooding over your own feelings, your own heroism, and your own suffering. But in the end that suffering will be softened and will pass into sweet contemplation of the fulfillment of a bold and proud design. Yes, proud it certainly is, and desperate in any case, but a triumph for you. And the consciousness of it will at last be a source of complete satisfaction and will make you resigned to everything else." This was unmistakably said with some malice and obviously with intention, even perhaps with no desire to conceal that he spoke ironically and with intention. "Oh dear, how mistaken it all is!" Madame Horodkov cried again. "Alexey Fyodorovitch, you speak. I want dreadfully to know what you will say," cried Katerina Ivanovna, and burst into tears. Alyosha got up from the sofa. "It's nothing. She went on through her tears. "I'm upset. I didn't sleep last night. But by the side of two such friends as you and your brother, I still feel strong. For I know you too will never desert me. Unluckily, I am obliged to return to Moscow, perhaps tomorrow, and to leave you for a long time. And unluckily, it's unavoidable," Ivan said suddenly. "Tomorrow to Moscow?" Her face was suddenly contorted. But, dear me, how fortunate!" she cried in a voice suddenly changed. In one instant there was no trace left of her tears. She underwent an instantaneous transformation, which amazed Alyosha. Instead of a poor, insulted girl weeping in a sort of laceration, he saw a woman completely self-possessed and even exceedingly pleased, as though something agreeable had just happened. "Oh, not fortunate that I am losing you, of course not," she corrected herself suddenly, with a charming society smile. "Such a friend as you are could not suppose that. I am only too unhappy at losing you." She rushed impulsively at Ivan, and seizing both his hands, pressed them warmly. "But what is fortunate is that you will be able in Moscow to see Auntie and Agafya and to tell them all the horror of my present position. You can speak with complete openness to Agafya, but spare dear Auntie. You will know how to do that. You can't think how wretched I was yesterday and this morning, wondering how I could write them that dreadful letter, for one can never tell such things in a letter. Now it will be easy for me to write, for you will see them and explain everything. Oh, how glad I am! But I am only glad of that, believe me. Of course, no one can take your place. I will run at once to write the letter," she finished suddenly, and took a step as though to go out of the room. "And what about Alyosha and his opinion, which you were so desperately anxious to hear?" cried Madame Horodkov. There was a sarcastic, angry note in her voice. "I had not forgotten that," cried Katerina Ivanovna, coming to a sudden standstill. "And why are you so antagonistic at such a moment?" she added, with warm and bitter reproachfulness. "What I said, I repeat. I must have his opinion. More than that, I must have his decision. As he says, so it shall be. You see how anxious I am for your words, Alexey Fyodorovitch, but what's the matter?" "I couldn't have believed it. I can't understand it," Alyosha cried suddenly in distress. What? He is going to Moscow, and you cry out that you are glad. You said that on purpose. and you begin explaining that you are not glad of that but sorry to be losing a friend. But that was acting too. You were playing a part, as in a theatre. In a theatre? What? What do you mean? Exclaimed Katerina Ivanovna, profoundly astonished, flushing crimson and frowning. Though you assure him you are sorry to lose a friend in him, you persist in telling him to his face that it's fortunate he is going, said Alyosha breathlessly. He was standing at the table and did not sit down. What are you talking about? I don't understand. I don't understand myself. I seem to see in the flesh. I know I'm not saying it properly, but I'll say it all the same. Alyosha went on in the same shaking and broken voice. What I see is that perhaps you don't love Dmitri at all, and never have from the beginning. And Dmitri, too, has never loved you, and only esteems you. I really don't know how I dare to say all this, but somebody must tell the truth, for nobody here will tell the truth. What truth? Cried Katerina Ivanovna, and there was an hysterical ring in her voice. I will tell you, Alyosha went on with desperate haste, as though he were jumping from the top of a house. Call Dmitri. I will fetch him, and let him come here and take your hand and take Ivan's and join your hands. For you're torturing Ivan, simply because you love him, and torturing him because you love Dmitri through self-laceration, with an unreal love, because you've persuaded yourself. Alyosha broke off and was silent. You are a little religious idiot. That's what you are, Katerina Ivanovna snapped. Her face was white and her lips were moving with anger. Ivan suddenly laughed and got up. His hat was in his hand. You are mistaken, my good Alyosha, he said, with an expression Alyosha had never seen in his face before, an expression of youthful sincerity and strong, irresistibly frank feeling. Katerina Ivanovna has never cared for me. She has known all the time that I cared for her, though I never said a word of my love to her. She knew, but she didn't care for me. I've never been her friend either, not for one moment. She is too proud to need my friendship. She kept me at her side as a means of revenge. She revenged with me and on me all the insults which she has been continually receiving from Dmitri ever since their first meeting. For even that first meeting has rankled in her heart as an insult. That's what her heart is like. She has talked to me of nothing but her love for him. I'm going now. But believe me, Katerina Ivanovna, you really love him. And the more he insults you, the more you love him. That's your laceration. You love him just as he is. You love him for insulting you. If he reformed, you'd give him up at once and cease to love him. But you need him so as to contemplate continually your heroic fidelity and to reproach him for infidelity. And it all comes from your pride. Oh, there's a great deal of humiliation and self-abasement about it. But it all comes from pride. I'm too young and I've loved you too much. I know that I ought not to say this, that it would be more dignified on my part simply to leave you, and it would be less offensive for you. But I'm going far away, and shall never come back. It is forever. I don't want to sit beside a laceration, but I don't know how to speak now. I've said everything. Goodbye, Katerina Ivanovna. You can't be angry with me, for I am 100 times more severely punished than you, if only by the fact that I shall never see you again. Goodbye. I don't want your hand. You have tortured me too deliberately for me to be able to forgive you at this moment. I shall forgive you later, but now I don't want your hand. Den Dank, Dame. Begeer ik niet, he added, with a forced smile, showing, however, that he could read Schiller, and read him till he knew him by heart, which Alyosha would never have believed. He went out of the room without saying goodbye even to his hostess, Madame Holikov. Alyosha clasped his hands. Ivan, he cried desperately after him. Come back, Ivan. No, nothing will induce him to come back now, he cried again, regretfully realizing it. But it's my fault. I began it. Ivan spoke angrily, wrongly, unjustly and angrily. He must come back here. Come back. Alyosha kept exclaiming frantically. Katerina Ivanovna went suddenly into the next room. You have done no harm. You behaved beautifully, like an angel. Madame Holikov whispered rapidly and ecstatically to Alyosha. I will do my utmost to prevent Ivan Fyodorovitch from going. Her face beamed with delight, to the great distress of Alyosha. But Katerina Ivanovna suddenly returned. She had 200-ruble notes in her hand. I have a great favor to ask of you, Alexey Fyodorovitch, she began, addressing Alyosha with an apparently calm and even voice, as though nothing had happened. A week, Yes, I think it was a week ago, Dmitri Fyodorovich was guilty of a hasty and unjust action, a very ugly action. There is a low tavern here, and in it he met that discharged officer, that captain, whom your father used to employ in some business. Dmitri Fyodorovich somehow lost his temper with this captain, seized him by the beard and dragged him out into the street and for some distance along it in that insulting fashion. And I'm told that his son, a boy, quite a child, who is at the school here, saw it and ran beside them crying and begging for his father, appealing to everyone to defend him, while everyone laughed. You must forgive me, Alexei Fyodorovich. I cannot think without indignation of that disgraceful action of his, one of those actions of which only Dmitri Fyodorovich would be capable in his anger and in his passions. I can't describe it even, I can't find my words. I've made inquiries about his victim and find he is quite a poor man. His name is Snegiryov. He did something wrong in the army and was discharged. I can't tell you what. And now he has sunk into terrible destitution, with his family, an unhappy family of sick children, and I believe an insane wife. He has been living here a long time. He used to work as a copying clerk, but now he is getting nothing. I thought of you. That is, I thought. I don't know. I am so confused. You see, I wanted to ask you, my dear Alexei Fyodorovich, to go to him, to find some excuse to go to them. I mean, to that captain. Oh, goodness, how badly I explained it, and delicately, carefully, as only you know how to, manage to give him this assistance, these 200 rubles. He will be sure to take it. I mean, persuade him to take it. Or rather, what do I mean? You see, it's not by way of compensation to prevent him from taking proceedings, but simply a token of sympathy, of a desire to assist him from me, Dmitri Fyodorovich's betrothed, not from himself. But you know, I would go myself, but you know how to do it ever so much better. He lives in Lake Street, in the house of a woman called Kalmikov. For God's sake, Alexei Fyodorovich, do it for me. And now I'm rather tired. Goodbye. She turned and disappeared behind a portiere so quickly that Alyosha had not time to utter a word, though he wanted to speak. He longed to beg her pardon, to blame himself, to say something, for his heart was full and he could not bear to go out of the room without it. But Madame Hohlakov took him by the hand and drew him along with her. In the hall she stopped him again as before. She is proud. She is struggling with herself, but kind, charming, generous, she exclaimed in a half-whisper. Oh, how I love her, especially sometimes, and how glad I am again of everything. Dear Alexei Fyodorovich, you didn't know, but I must tell you that we all, both her aunts, I and all of us, Liz even, have been hoping and praying for nothing for the last month but that she may give up your favorite Dmitri, who takes no notice of her and does not care for her, and may marry Ivan Fyodorovich, such an excellent and cultivated young man, who loves her more than anything in the world. We are in a regular plot to bring it about, and I'm even staying on here, perhaps on that account. But she has been crying. She has been wounded again, cried Alyosha. Never trust a woman's tears, Alexei Fyodorovich. I am never for the women in such cases. I am always on the side of the men. Mamma, you are spoiling him, Liz's little voice cried from behind the door. No, it was all my fault. I am horribly to blame, Alyosha repeated unconsoled, hiding his face in his hands in an agony of remorse for his indiscretion. Quite the contrary. You behaved like an angel, like an angel. I'm ready to say so 1,000 times over. Mamma, how has he behaved like an angel? Liz's voice was heard again. I somehow fancied all at once, Alyosha went on as though he had not heard Liz, that she loved Ivan, and so I said that stupid thing. What will happen now? To whom? To whom? Cried Liz. Mamma, you really want to be the death of me? I ask you and you don't answer. At the moment the maid ran in. Katerina Ivanovna is ill. She is crying, struggling, hysterics. What is the matter? Cried Liz, in a tone of real anxiety. Mamma, I shall be having hysterics, and not she. Liz, for mercy's sake, don't scream, don't persecute me. At your age, one can't know everything that grown-up people know. I'll come and tell you everything you ought to know. Oh, mercy on us. I'm coming. Hysterics is a good sign, Alexei Fyodorovich. It's an excellent thing that she is hysterical. That's just as it ought to be. In such cases, I am always against the woman, against all these feminine tears and hysterics. Run and say, Yulia, that I'll fly to her. As for Ivan Fyodorovich's going away like that, it's her own fault, but he won't go away. Liz, for mercy's sake, don't scream. Oh yes, you are not screaming. It's I am screaming. Forgive your mama, but I am delighted. Did you notice Alexei Fyodorovich? How young Ivan Fyodorovich was just now when he went out, when he said all that and went out? I thought he was so learned, such a savant, and all of a sudden he behaved so warmly, openly, and youthfully, with such youthful inexperience, and it was all so fine, like you. And the way he repeated that German verse, it was just like you. But I must fly. Alexei Fyodorovich, make haste to carry out her commission, and then make haste back. Liz, do you want anything now? For mercy's sake, don't keep Alexei Fyodorovich a minute. He will come back to you at once. Madame Holdakov at last ran off. Before leaving, Alyosha would have opened the door to see Liz. On no account, cried Liz. On no account now. Speak through the door. How have you come to be an angel? That's the only thing I want to know. For an awful piece of stupidity. Liz, goodbye. Don't dare to go away like that, Liz was beginning. Liz, I have a real sorrow. I'll be back directly, but I have a great, great sorrow. And he ran out of the room. Chapter 6. A laceration in a cottage. He certainly was really grieved in a way he had seldom been before. He had rushed in like a fool, and meddled in what? In a love affair. But what do I know about it? What can I tell about such things? He repeated to himself for the 100th time, flushing crimson. Oh, being ashamed would be nothing. Shame is only the punishment I deserve. The trouble is, I shall certainly have caused more unhappiness, and Father Zosima sent me to reconcile and bring them together. Is this the way to bring them together? Then he suddenly remembered how he had tried to join their hands, and he felt fearfully ashamed again. Though I acted quite sincerely, I must be more sensible in the future, he concluded suddenly, and did not even smile at his conclusion. Katerina Ivanovna's commission took him to Lake Street, and his brother Dmitri lived close by, in a turning out of Lake Street. Alyosha decided to go to him in any case before going to the captain, though he had a presentiment that he would not find his brother. He suspected that he would intentionally keep out of his way now, but he must find him anyhow. Time was passing. The thought of his dying elder had not left Alyosha for 1 minute from the time he set off from the monastery. There was one point which interested him particularly about Katerina Ivanovna's commission. When she had mentioned the captain's son, the little schoolboy who had run beside his father crying, the idea had at once struck Alyosha that this must be the schoolboy who had bitten his finger when he, Alyosha, asked him what he had done to hurt him. Now Alyosha felt practically certain of this, though he could not have said why. Thinking of another subject was a relief, and he resolved to think no more about the mischief he had done, and not to torture himself with remorse, but to do what he had to do, let come what would. At that thought he was completely comforted. Turning to the street where Dmitri lodged, he felt hungry, and taking out of his pocket the roll he had brought from his father's, he ate it. It made him feel stronger. Dmitri was not at home. The people of the house, an old cabinet maker, his son, and his old wife, looked with positive suspicion at Alyosha. He hasn't slept here for the last 3 nights. Maybe he has gone away, the old man said in answer to Alyosha's persistent inquiries. Alyosha saw that he was answering in accordance with instructions. When he asked whether he were not at Grushenka's or in hiding at Foma's, all 3 looked at him in alarm. They are fond of him. They are doing their best for him, thought Alyosha. That's good. At last he found a house in Lake Street. It was a decrepit little house, sunk on one side, with 3 windows looking into the street, and with a muddy yard, in the middle of which stood a solitary cow. He crossed the yard and found a door opening into the passage. On the left of the passage lived the old woman of the house with her old daughter. Both seemed to be deaf. In answer to his repeated inquiry for the captain, one of them at last understood that he was asking for their lodgers, and pointed to a door across the passage. The captain's lodging turned out to be a simple cottage room. Alyosha had his hand on the iron latch to open the door, when he was struck by the strange hush within. Yet he knew from Katerina Ivanovna's words that the man had a family. Either they are all asleep, or perhaps they have heard me coming and are waiting for me to open the door. I'd better knock first. And he knocked. An answer came, but not at once. after an interval of perhaps 10 seconds. "Who's there?" shouted someone in a loud and very angry voice. Then Alyosha opened the door and crossed the threshold. He found himself in a regular peasant's room. Though it was large, it was cumbered up with domestic belongings of all sorts, and there were several people in it. On the left was a large Russian stove. From the stove to the window on the left was a stirring running across the room, and on it there were rags hanging. There was a bedstead against the wall on each side, right and left, covered with knitted quilts. On the one on the left was a pyramid of 4 print-covered pillows, each smaller than the one beneath. On the other there was only one very small pillow. The opposite corner was screened off by a curtain or a sheet hung on a string. Behind this curtain could be seen a bed made up on a bench and a chair. The rough square table of plain wood had been moved into the middle window. The 3 windows, which consisted each of 4 tiny greenish mildewy panes, it gave little light, and were closed shut, so that the room was not very light and rather stuffy. On the table was a frying pan with the remains of some fried eggs, a half-eaten piece of bread, and a small bottle with a few drops of vodka. A woman of genteel appearance, wearing a cotton gown, was sitting on a chair by the bed on the left. Her face was thin and yellow, and her sunken cheeks betrayed at the first glance that she was ill. But what struck Alyosha most was the expression in the poor woman's eyes, a look of surprised inquiry and yet of haughty pride. And while he was talking to her husband, her big brown eyes moved from one speaker to the other with the same haughty and questioning expression. Beside her at the window stood a young girl, rather plain, with scanty reddish hair, poorly but very neatly dressed. She looked disdainfully at Alyosha as he came in. Beside the other bed was sitting another female figure. She was a very sad sight, a young girl of about 20, but hunchbacked and crippled with withered legs, as Alyosha was told afterwards. Her crutches stood in a corner close by. The strikingly beautiful and gentle eyes of this poor girl looked with mild serenity at Alyosha. A man of 45 was sitting at the table, finishing the fried eggs. He was spare, small, and weakly built. He had reddish hair and a scanty light-colored beard, very much like a wisp of tow. It was obviously this gentleman who had shouted to him, as there was no other man in the room. But when Alyosha went in, he leapt up from the bench on which he was sitting, and, hastily wiping his mouth with a ragged napkin, darted up to Alyosha. "It's a monk come to beg for the monastery. A nice place to come to," the girl standing in the left corner said aloud. The man spun round instantly towards her and answered her in an excited and breaking voice. "No, Varvara, you are wrong. Allow me to ask." He turned again to Alyosha. "What has brought you to our retreat?" Alyosha looked attentively at him. It was the first time he had seen him. There was something angular, flurried, and irritable about him. Though he had obviously just been drinking, he was not drunk. There was extraordinary impudence in his expression, and yet, strange to say, at the same time there was fear. He looked like a man who had long been kept in subjection and had submitted to it, and now had suddenly turned and was trying to assert himself. Or, better still, like a man who wants dreadfully to hit you, but is horribly afraid you will hit him. In his words and in the intonation of his shrill voice there was a sort of crazy humor, at times spiteful and at times cringing, and continually shifting from one tone to another. The question about our retreat, he had asked as it were quivering all over, rolling his eyes, and skipping up so close to Alyosha that he instinctively drew back a step. He was dressed in a very shabby dark cotton coat, patched and spotted. He wore checked trousers of an extremely light color, long out of fashion, and of very thin material. They were so crumpled and so short that he looked as though he had grown out of them like a boy. "I'm Alexei Karamazov," Alyosha began in reply. "I quite understand that, sir," the gentleman snapped out at once to assure him that he knew who he was already. "I am Captain Snegiryov, sir, but I am still desirous to know precisely what has led you—" "Oh, I've come for nothing special. I wanted to have a word with you, if only you allow me." "In that case, here is a chair, sir. Kindly be seated. That's what they used to say in the old comedies. Kindly be seated." And with a rapid gesture he seized an empty chair and set it for him almost in the middle of the room. Then, taking another similar chair for himself, he sat down facing Alyosha, so close to him that their knees almost touched. "Nikolai Ilyich Snegiryov, sir, formerly a captain in the Russian infantry, put to shame for his vices, but still a captain. though I might not be one now for the way I talk. For the last half of my life, I've learned to say, sir, is a word you use when you've come down in the world. That's very true, smiled Alyosha. But is it used involuntarily or on purpose? It's God's above. It's involuntary, and I usen't to use it. I didn't use the word sir all my life, but as soon as I sank into low water, I began to say sir. It's the work of a higher power. I see you are interested in contemporary questions, but how can I have excited your curiosity, living as I do in surroundings impossible for the exercise of hospitality? I've come about that business. About what business? The captain interrupted impatiently. About your meeting with my brother Dmitri Fyodorovich. Alyosha blurted out awkwardly. What meeting, sir? You don't mean that meeting? About my wisp of tow, then? He moved closer so that his knees positively knocked against Alyosha. His lips were strangely compressed like a thread. What wisp of tow? Muttered Alyosha. He is come to complain of me, father, cried a voice familiar to Alyosha, the voice of the schoolboy, from behind the curtain. I bit his finger just now. The curtain was pulled, and Alyosha saw his assailant lying on the little bed made up on the bench and a chair in a corner under the icons. The boy lay covered by his coat and an old wadded quilt. He was evidently unwell, and, judging by his glittering eyes, he was in a fever. He looked at Alyosha without fear, as though he felt he was at home and could not be touched. What? Did he bite your finger? The captain jumped up from his chair. Was it your finger he bit? Yes. He was throwing stones with other schoolboys. There were 6 of them against him alone. I went up to him, and he threw a stone at me and then another at my head. I asked him what I had done to him, and then he rushed at me and bit my finger badly. I don't know why. I'll thrash him, sir, at once, this minute. The captain jumped up from his seat. But I'm not complaining at all. I'm simply telling you. I don't want him to be thrashed. Besides, he seemed to be ill. And you suppose I'd thrash him? That I'd take my Ilusha and thrash him before you for your satisfaction? Would you like it done at once, sir? Said the captain, suddenly turning to Alyosha, as though he were going to attack him. I'm sorry about your finger, sir. But instead of thrashing Ilusha, would you like me to chop off my 4 fingers with this knife here before your eyes to satisfy your just wrath? I should think 4 fingers would be enough to satisfy your thirst for vengeance. You wouldn't ask for the 5th one, too. He stopped short with a catch in his throat. Every feature in his face was twitching and working. He looked extremely defiant. He was in a sort of frenzy. I think I understand it all now, said Alyosha gently and sorrowfully, still keeping his seat. So your boy is a good boy. He loves his father, and he attacked me as the brother of your assailant. Now I understand it, he repeated thoughtfully. But my brother Dmitri Fyodorovich regrets his action, I know that, and if only it is possible for him to come to you, or better still, to meet you in the same place, he will ask your forgiveness before everyone, if you wish it. After pulling out my beard, you mean, he will ask my forgiveness, and he thinks that will be a satisfactory finish, doesn't he? Oh no, on the contrary. He will do anything you like and in any way you like. So, if I were to ask His Highness to go down on his knees before me in that very tavern, the Metropolis it's called, or in the marketplace, he would do it. Yes, he would even go down on his knees. You've pierced me to the heart, sir, touched me to tears and pierced me to the heart. I am only too sensible of your brother's generosity. Allow me to introduce my family, my 2 daughters and my son, my litter. If I die, who will care for them? And while I live, who but they will care for a wretch like me? That's a great thing the Lord has ordained for every man of my sort, sir, for there must be someone able to love even a man like me. Ah, that's perfectly true, exclaimed Alyosha. Oh, do leave off playing the fool. Some idiot comes in, and you put us to shame, cried the girl by the window, suddenly turning to her father with a disdainful and contemptuous air. Wait a little, Varvara, cried her father, speaking peremptorily but looking at her quite approvingly. That's her character, he said, addressing Alyosha again. And in all nature there was naught that could find favor in his eyes, or rather in the feminine, that could find favor in her eyes. But now let me present you to my wife, Alina Pietrovna. She is crippled, she is 43, she can move but very little. She is of humble origin. Alina Pietrovna, compose your countenance. This is Alexey Fyodorovich Karamazov. Get up, Alexey Fyodorovich. He took him by the hand and with unexpected force pulled him up. You must stand up to be introduced to a lady. It's not the Karamazov, mamma, who, etc., but his brother, radiant with modest virtues. Come, Arina Pietrovna, come, Mama, first your hand to be kissed. And he kissed his wife's hand respectfully and even tenderly. The girl at the window turned her back indignantly on the scene. An expression of extraordinary cordiality came over the haughtily inquiring face of the woman. Good morning. Sit down, Mr. Karamazov, she said. Karamazov, Mama, Karamazov. We are of humble origin, he whispered again. Well, Karamazov, or whatever it is, but I always think of Karamazov. Sit down. Why has he pulled you up? He calls me crippled, but I'm not. Only my legs are swollen like barrels, and I'm shriveled up myself. Once I used to be so fat, but now it's as though I had swallowed a needle. We are of humble origin, the captain muttered again. Oh, father, father, the hunchback girl, who had till then been silent on her chair, said suddenly, and she hid her eyes in her handkerchief. Buffoon, blurted out the girl at the window. Have you heard our news? Said the mother, pointing at her daughters. It's like clouds coming over. The clouds pass and we have music again. When we were with the army, we used to have many such guests. I don't mean to make any comparisons, everyone to their taste. The deacon's wife used to come then and say, Alexander Alexandrovich is a man of the noblest heart, but Nastasia Petrovna, she would say, is of the brood of hell. Well, I said, that's a matter of taste, but you are a little spitfire, and you want keeping in your place, says she. You black sword, said I, who asked you to teach me? But my breath, says she, is clean, and yours is unclean. You ask all the officers whether my breath is unclean, and ever since then I had it in my mind. Not long ago I was sitting here as I am now, when I saw that very general come in who came here for Easter, and I asked him, Your Excellency, said I, can a lady's breath be unpleasant? Yes, he answered, you ought to open the window pane or open the door, for the air is not fresh here. And they all go on like that. And what is my breath to them? The dead smell worse still. I won't spoil the air, said I. I'll order some slippers and go away. My darlings, don't blame your own mother. Nikolai Ilyich, how is it I can't please you? There's only Ilusha who comes home from school and loves me. Yesterday he brought me an apple. Forgive your own mother. Forgive a poor lonely creature. Why has my breath become unpleasant to you? And the poor mad woman broke into sobs, and tears streamed down her cheeks. The captain rushed up to her. Mamma, Mamma, my dear, give over. You are not lonely. Everyone loves you. Everyone adores you. He began kissing both her hands again and tenderly stroking her face. Taking the dinner napkin, he began wiping away her tears. Alyosha fancied that he too had tears in his eyes. There, you see, you hear? He turned with a sort of fury to Alyosha, pointing to the poor imbecile. I see and hear, muttered Alyosha. Father, father, how can you? With him? Let him alone, cried the boy, sitting up in his bed and gazing at his father with glowing eyes. Do give over fooling, showing off your silly antics which never lead to anything, shouted Varvara, stamping her foot with passion. Your anger is quite just this time, Varvara, and I'll make haste to satisfy you. Come, put on your cap, Alexei Fyodorovich, and I'll put on mine. We will go out. I have a word to say to you in earnest, but not within these walls. This girl sitting here is my daughter Nina. I forgot to introduce her to you. She is a heavenly angel incarnate, who has flown down to us mortals, if you can understand. There he is shaking all over, as though he is in convulsions. Varvara went on indignantly. And she there, stamping her foot at me and calling me a fool just now. She is a heavenly angel incarnate too, and she has good reason to call me so. Come along, Alexei Fyodorovich, we must make an end. And snatching Alyosha's hand, he drew him out of the room into the street. Chapter 7. And in the open air. The air is fresh, but in my apartment it is not so in any sense of the word. Let us walk slowly, sir. I should be glad of your kind interest. I too have something important to say to you, observed Alyosha, only I don't know how to begin. To be sure, you must have business with me. You would never have looked in upon me without some object, unless you come simply to complain of the boy, and that's hardly likely. And, by the way, about the boy, I could not explain to you in there, but here I will describe that scene to you. My toe was thicker a week ago. I mean my beard. That's the nickname they give to my beard. The schoolboys most of all. Well, your brother Dmitri Fyodorovich was pulling me by my beard. I'd done nothing. He was in a towering rage and happened to come upon me. He dragged me out of the tavern into the marketplace. At that moment the boys were coming out of school, and with them Ilusha. As soon as he saw me in such a state, he rushed up to me. "Father," he cried, "Father." He caught hold of me, hugged me, tried to pull me away, crying to my assailant, let go, it's my father, forgive him." Yes, he actually cried, "Forgive him." He clutched at that hand, that very hand, in his little hands and kissed it. I remember his little face at that moment. I haven't forgotten it, and I never shall. "I swear," cried Alyosha, "that my brother will express his most deep and sincere regret, even if he has to go down on his knees in that same marketplace. I'll make him, or he is no brother of mine." "Aha, then it's only a suggestion, and it does not come from him, but simply from the generosity of your own warm heart. You should have said so. No, in that case, allow me to tell you of your brother's highly chivalrous soldierly generosity, for he did give expression to it at the time. He left off dragging me by my beard and released me. "You are an officer," he said, "and I am an officer. If you can find a decent man to be your second, send me your challenge. I will give satisfaction, though you are a scoundrel." That's what he said. A chivalrous spirit indeed. I retired with Ilusha, and that scene is a family record imprinted forever on Ilusha's soul. No, it's not for us to claim the privileges of noblemen. Judge for yourself. You've just been in our mansion. What did you see there? 3 ladies, one a cripple and weak-minded, another a cripple and hunchback, and a third not crippled but far too clever. She's a student, dying to get back to Petersburg, to work for the emancipation of the Russian woman on the banks of the Neva. I won't speak of Ilusha. He is only 9. I'm alone in the world, and if I die, what will become of all of them? I simply ask you that. And if I challenge him and he kills me on the spot, what then? What will become of them? And worse still, if he doesn't kill me but only cripples me, I couldn't work, but I should still be a mouth to feed. Who would feed it, and who would feed them all? Must I take Ilusha from school and send him to beg in the streets? That's what it means for me to challenge him to a duel. It's silly talk and nothing else. He will beg your forgiveness. He will bow down at your feet in the middle of the marketplace, cried Alyosha again, with glowing eyes. I did think of prosecuting him, the captain went on, but look in our code. Could I get much compensation for a personal injury? And then Agraviena Alexandrovna sent for me and shouted at me. Don't dare to dream of it. If you proceed against him, I'll publish it to all the world that he beat you for your dishonesty, and then you will be prosecuted. I call God to witness whose was the dishonesty and by whose commands I acted. Wasn't it by her own and Fyodor Pavlovich's? And what's more, she went on, I'll dismiss you for good, and you'll never earn another penny from me. I'll speak to my merchant too, and he'll dismiss you. And if he dismisses me, what can I earn then from anyone? Those two are all I have to look to. For your Fyodor Pavlovich has not only given over employing me for another reason, but he means to make use of papers I've signed to go to law against me. And so I kept quiet, and you have seen our retreat. But now let me ask you, did Ilusha hurt your finger much? I didn't like to go into it in our mansion before him. Yes, very much, and he was in a great fury. He was avenging you on me as a Karamazov. I see that now. But if only you had seen how he was throwing stones at his schoolfellows. It's very dangerous. They might kill him. They are children and stupid. A stone may be thrown and break somebody's head. That's just what has happened. He has been bruised by a stone today. Not on the head, but on the chest, just above the heart. He came home crying and groaning, and now he's ill. And you know he attacks them first. He is bitter against them on your account. They say he stabbed a boy called Krasotkin with a penknife not long ago. I've heard about that too. It's dangerous. Krasotkin is an official here. We may hear more about it. I would advise you, Alyosha went on warmly, not to send him to school at all for a time till he is calmer and his anger is past. Anger, the captain repeated. That's just what it is. He is a little creature, but it's a mighty anger. You don't know all, sir. Let me tell you more. Since that instant, all the boys have been teasing him about the wisp of tow. Schoolboys are a merciless race. Individually, they are angels, but together, especially in schools, they are often merciless. Their teasing has stirred up a gallant spirit in Ilusha. An ordinary boy, a weak son, would have submitted, have felt ashamed of his father, sir, but he stood up for his father against them all, for his father and for truth and justice. For what he suffered when he kissed your brother's hand and cried to him, 'Forgive, Father, forgive him,' that only God knows, and I, his father. For our children, not your children, but ours, the children of the poor gentleman looked down upon by everyone, know what justice means, sir, even at 9 years old. How should the rich know? They don't explore such depths once in their lives. But at that moment in the square when he kissed his hand, at that moment my Ilusha had grasped all that justice means. That truth entered into him and crushed him forever, sir." The captain said hotly again with a sort of frenzy, and he struck his right fist against his left palm as though he wanted to show how the truth crushed Ilusha. That very day, sir, he fell ill with fever and was delirious all night. All that day he hardly said a word to me, but I noticed he kept watching me from the corner, though he turned to the window and pretended to be learning his lessons. But I could see his mind was not on his lessons. Next day I got drunk to forget my troubles, sinful man as I am, and I don't remember much. Mamma began crying too. I am very fond of Mamma. Well, I spent my last penny drowning my troubles. Don't despise me for that, sir. In Russia, men who drink are the best. The best men among us are the greatest drunkards. I lay down, and I don't remember about Ilusha, though all that day the boys had been jeering at him at school. "Wisp of tow," they shouted. "Your father was pulled out of the tavern by his wisp of tow. You ran by and begged forgiveness." On the third day, when he came back from school, I saw he looked pale and wretched. "What is it?" I asked. He wouldn't answer. Well, there's no talking in our mansion without Mamma and the girls taking part in it. What's more, the girls had heard about it the very first day. Varvara had begun snarling. "You fools and buffoons, can you ever do anything rational?" "Quite so," I said. "Can we ever do anything rational?" For the first time I turned it off like that. So in the evening I took the boy out for a walk, for you must know we go for a walk every evening, always the same way, along which we are going now, from our gate to that great stone which lies alone in the road under the hurdle, which marks the beginning of the town pasture, a beautiful and lonely spot, sir. Ilusha and I walked along hand in hand as usual. He has a little hand, his fingers are thin and cold. He suffers with his chest, you know. "Father," said he, "Father." "Well," said I. I saw his eyes flashing. "Father, how he treated you then." "It can't be helped, Ilusha," I said. "Don't forgive him, Father. Don't forgive him. At school they say that he has paid you 10 rubles for it." "No, Ilusha," said I. "I would not take money from him for anything." Then he began trembling all over, took my hand in both his and kissed it again. "Father," he said, "Father, challenge him to a duel. At school they say you are a coward and won't challenge him, and that you'll accept 10 rubles from him." "I can't challenge him to a duel, Ilusha," I answered, and I told briefly what I've just told you. He listened. "Father," he said, "anyway, don't forgive it. When I grow up, I'll call him out myself and kill him." His eyes shone and glowed. And of course I am his father, and I had to put in a word. "It's a sin to kill," I said, "even in a duel." "Father," he said, "when I grow up, I'll knock him down, knock the sword out of his hand. I'll fall on him, wave my sword over him and say, 'I could kill you, but I forgive you.' So there. You see what the workings of his little mind have been during these 2 days. He must have been planning that vengeance all day, and raving about it at night. But he began to come home from school badly beaten. I found out about it the day before yesterday, and you are right. I won't send him to that school any more. I heard that he was standing up against all the class alone and defying them all, that his heart was full of resentment, of bitterness. I was alarmed about him. We went for another walk. "Father," he asked, "are the rich people stronger than anyone else on earth?" "Yes, Ilusha," I said. "There are no people on earth stronger than the rich." "Father," he said, "I'll get rich. I'll become an officer and conquer everybody. The Tsar will reward me. I will come back here, and then no one will dare." Then he was silent, and his lips still kept trembling. "Father," he said, "what a horrid town this is." "Yes, Ilusha," I said, "it isn't a very nice town." "Father, let us move into another town, a nice one," he said, "where people don't know about us." "We will move, we will, Ilusha," said I, "only I must save up for it." I was glad to be able to turn his mind from painful thoughts, and we began to dream of how we would move to another town, how we would buy a horse and cart. "We will put Mamma and your sisters inside. We will cover them up and we'll walk. You shall have a lift now and then, and I'll walk beside, for we must take care of our horse. We can't all ride. That's how we'll go." He was enchanted at that. most of all at the thought of having a horse and driving him, for of course a Russian boy is born among horses. We chatted a long while. Thank God, I thought, I have diverted his mind and comforted him. That was the day before yesterday, in the evening, but last night everything was changed. He had gone to school in the morning. He came back depressed, terribly depressed. In the evening I took him by the hand and we went for a walk. He would not talk. There was a wind blowing and no sun, and a feeling of autumn. Twilight was coming on. We walked along, both of us depressed. Well, my boy, said I, how about our setting off on our travels? I thought I might bring him back to our talk of the day before. He didn't answer, but I felt his fingers trembling in my hand. Ah, I thought, it's a bad job. There's something fresh. We had reached the stone where we are now. I sat down on the stone, and in the air there were lots of kites flapping and whirling. There were as many as 30 in sight. Of course, it's just the season for the kites. Look, Ilusha, said I, it's time we got out our last year's kite again. I'll mend it. Where have you put it away? My boy made no answer. He looked away and turned sideways to me. And then a gust of wind blew up the sand. He suddenly fell on me, threw both his little arms round my neck and held me tight. You know, when children are silent and proud and try to keep back their tears when they are in great trouble and suddenly break down, their tears fall in streams. With those warm streams of tears, he suddenly wetted my face. He sobbed and shook as though he were in convulsions, and squeezed up against me as I sat on the stone. Father, he kept crying, dear father, how he insulted you. And I sobbed too. We sat shaking in each other's arms. Ilusha, I said to him, Ilusha, darling, no one saw us then. God alone saw us. I hope he will record it to my credit. You must thank your brother, Alexei Fyodorovich. No, sir, I won't thrash my boy for your satisfaction. He had gone back to his original tone of resentful buffoonery. Alyosha felt, though, that he trusted him, and that if there had been someone else in Alyosha's place, the man would not have spoken so openly and would not have told what he had just told. This encouraged Alyosha, whose heart was trembling on the verge of tears. Ah, how I would like to make friends with your boy, he cried, if you could arrange it. Certainly, sir, muttered the captain. But now listen to something quite different. Alyosha went on. I have a message for you. That same brother of mine, Dmitri, has insulted his betrothed, too, a noble-hearted girl of whom you have probably heard. I have a right to tell you of her wrong. I ought to do so. In fact, for hearing of the insult done to you and learning all about your unfortunate position, she commissioned me at once, just now, to bring you this help from her, but only from her alone, not from Dmitri, who has abandoned her, nor from me, his brother, nor from anyone else, but from her, only from her. She entreats you to accept her help. She have both been insulted by the same man. She thought of you only when she had just received a similar insult from him. Similar in its cruelty, I mean. She comes like a sister to help a brother in misfortune. She told me to persuade you to take these 200 rubles from her, as from a sister, knowing that you are in such need. No one will know of it. It can give rise to no unjust slander. There are the 200 rubles. And I swear you must take them unless all men are to be enemies on earth. But there are brothers even on earth. You have a generous heart. You must see that. You must. And Alyosha held out 2 new rainbow-colored 100-ruble notes. They were both standing at the time by the great stone close to the fence, and there was no one near. The notes seemed to produce a tremendous impression on the captain. He started, but at first only from astonishment. Such an outcome of their conversation was the last thing he expected. Nothing could have been farther from his dreams than help from anyone, and such a sum. He took the notes, and for a minute he was almost unable to answer. Quite a new expression came into his face. That for me? So much money? 200 rubles? Good heavens! Why, I haven't seen so much money for the last 4 years. Mercy on us! And she says she is a sister. And is that the truth? I swear that all I told you is the truth, cried Alyosha. The captain flushed red. Listen, my dear, listen. If I take it, I shan't be behaving like a scoundrel. In your eyes, Alexei Fyodorovich, I shan't be a scoundrel. No, Alexei Fyodorovich, listen, listen. He hurried, touching Alyosha with both his hands. You are persuading me to take it, saying that it's a sister sends it. But inwardly, in your heart, won't you feel contempt for me if I take it, eh? No, no. On my salvation, I swear I shan't, and no one will ever know but me. I, you, and she. and one other lady, her great friend. Never mind the lady. Listen, Alexey Fyodorovich, at a moment like this you must listen, for you can't understand what these 200 rubles mean to me now. The poor fellow went on rising gradually into a sort of incoherent, almost wild enthusiasm. He was thrown off his balance and talked extremely fast, as though afraid he would not be allowed to say all he had to say. Besides its being honestly acquired from a sister, so highly respected and revered, do you know that now I can look after Mamma and Nina, my hunchback angel daughter? Dr. Hezonstu came to me in the kindness of his heart and was examining them both for a whole hour. I can make nothing of it, said he, but he prescribed a mineral water which is kept at a chemist here. He said it would be sure to do her good, and he ordered baths too, with some medicine in them. The mineral water costs 30 kopecks, and she'd need to drink 40 bottles perhaps. So I took the prescription and laid it on a shelf under the icons, and there it lies. And he ordered hot baths for Nina with something dissolved in them, morning and evening. But how can we carry out such a cure in our mansion, without servants, without help, without a bath, and without water? Nina is rheumatic all over. I don't think I told you that. All her right side aches at night. She is in agony, and, would you believe it, the angel bears it without groaning for fear of waking us. We eat what we can get, and she'll only take the leavings, what you'd scarcely give to a dog. I'm not worth it. I'm taking it from you. I am a burden on you. That's what her angel eyes try to express. We wait on her, but she doesn't like it. I am a useless cripple, no good to anyone, as though she were not worth it, when she is the saving of all of us with her angelic sweetness. Without her gentle word, it would be hell among us. She softens even Varvara. And don't judge Varvara harshly either. She is an angel too. She too has suffered wrong. She came to us for the summer, and she brought 16 rubles she had earned by lessons and saved up to go back with to Petersburg in September. That is now. But we took her money and lived on it. So now she has nothing to go back with. Though indeed she couldn't go back, for she has to work for us like a slave. She's like an overdriven horse with all of us on her back. She waits on us all, mends and washes, sweeps the floor, puts Mamma to bed. And Mamma is capricious and tearful and insane. And now I can get a servant with this money. You understand, Alexey Fyodorovich. I can get medicines for the dear creatures. I can send my student to Petersburg. I can buy beef. I can feed them properly. Good Lord, but it's a dream. Alyosha was delighted that he had brought him such happiness, and that the poor fellow had consented to be made happy. Stay, Alexey Fyodorovich, stay. The captain began to talk with fancied rapidity, carried away by a new daydream. Do you know that Ilusha and I will perhaps really carry out our dream? We will buy a horse and cart, a black horse. He insists on its being black, and we will set off as we pretended the other day. I have an old friend, a lawyer in K province, and I heard through a trustworthy man that if I were to go, he'd give me a place as clerk in his office. So, who knows, maybe he would. So I'd just put Mamma and Nina in the cart, and Ilusha could drive, and I'd walk. Why, if I only succeed in getting one debt paid that's owing me, I should have perhaps enough for that too. There would be enough, cried Alyosha. Katerina Ivanovna will send you as much more as you need. And you know, I have money too. Take what you want, as you would from a brother, from a friend. You can give it back later. And you know you couldn't have a better idea than to move to another province. It would be the saving of you, especially of your boy. And you ought to go quickly, before the winter, before the cold. You must write to us when you are there, and we will always be brothers. No, it's not a dream. Alyosha could have hugged him. He was so pleased. But glancing at him, he stopped short. The man was standing with his neck outstretched and his lips protruding, with a pale and frenzied face. His lips were moving as though trying to articulate something. No sound came, but still his lips moved. It was uncanny. What is it? Asked Alyosha, startled. Alexey Fyodorovich. You, muttered the captain, faltering, looking at him with a strange, wild, fixed stare, and an air of desperate resolution. At the same time there was a sort of grin on his lips. You, sir, wouldn't you like me to show you a little trick I know? He murmured, suddenly, in a firm, rapid whisper, his voice no longer faltering. What trick? A pretty trick, whispered the captain. His mouth was twisted on the left side. His left eye was screwed up. He still stared at Alyosha. What is the matter? What trick? Alyosha cried, now thoroughly alarmed. Why, look, squealed the captain suddenly, and showing him the 2 notes which he had been holding by one corner between his thumb and forefinger during the conversation, he crumpled them up savagely and squeezed them tight in his right hand. "Do you see? Do you see?" he shrieked, pale and infuriated. And suddenly flinging up his hand, he threw the crumpled notes on the sand. "Do you see?" he shrieked again, pointing to them. "Look there." And with wild fury he began trampling them under his heel, gasping and exclaiming as he did so, "So much for your money, so much for your money, so much for your money, so much for your money." Suddenly he darted back and drew himself up before Alyosha, and his whole figure expressed unutterable pride. "Tell those who send you that the wisp of tow does not sell his honor," he cried, raising his arm in the air. Then he turned quickly and began to run. But he had not run 5 steps before he turned completely round and kissed his hand to Alyosha. He ran another 5 paces and then turned round for the last time. This time his face was not contorted with laughter, but quivering all over with tears. In a tearful, faltering, sobbing voice he cried, "What should I say to my boy if I took money from you for our shame?" And then he ran on without turning. Alyosha looked after him, inexpressibly grieved. Oh, he saw that till the very last moment the man had not known he would crumple up and fling away the notes. He did not turn back. Alyosha knew he would not. He would not follow him and call him back. He knew why. When he was out of sight, Alyosha picked up the 2 notes. They were very much crushed and crumpled, and had been pressed into the sand, but were uninjured and even rustled like new ones when Alyosha unfolded them and smoothed them out. After smoothing them out, he folded them up, put them in his pocket, and went to Katerina Ivanovna to report on the success of her commission.